impetus for Brigade was a deep-seated fear as we looked at the electorate and voting behavior and citizens' attitudes toward government that that we're really worried about where the country is going because we think that citizens are losing faith in their own efficacy. And when you say it's hard to participate, it is, and yet people who have educations, people who make money participate at a very high rate, and their interests and their needs are often pretty well represented in government, despite obvious gaps in technology and other dysfunctions that Jen kind of said we're trying to resolve. So if you take the last California midterm, for example, anybody want to guess, panelists included, what turnout was for younger voters, for the 18 to 25-year-old crowd? Any guesses here in California? 15%. About half that. So about 8% turnout for millennials. Latinos as a whole, only 6%. Low-income voters, I don't know the stat, but it was in that ballpark. And yet for educated, white, middle-aged to older voters, turnout was closer to what you would expect, 50%, 60%. So I think that ends up being an issue of kind of justice and responsiveness of our government and of our elected representatives. Now, when we look at the problem, particularly thinking about this next generation of voters, we've identified two components to it that we want to try to tackle. One is complexity. Democracy is not scaled well offline. There are over 500,000 elected officials in the US. We are each represented by over 40 elected officials. 30 or more of them are at a local level. You probably couldn't name more than a few. I know I personally can only name a handful. You probably don't know what they're elected to do, what decisions they're making. Interestingly though, well, the federal budget's about $2.something trillion. In aggregate at a local level, all of those elected representatives spend just as much money. And they actually make a lot of decisions about things like public safety, transportation, education, in many cases healthcare, parks and rec, a lot of local decisions about spending and regulations that actually have a bigger impact on your quality of life than the decisions that the president can make. Not that he or she could make that many anyway. So I think complexity is one matter. How do you help people make sense of this massive, opaque system? And not just who the reps are and what the issues are, but how do decisions even get made? And how does power get exercised? The other is, even if you can overcome that problem, and we think technology offers obvious solutions there. I was giving this example earlier today. If you want to travel to Dubai, and then London, and then Singapore, and then back home, and you're going to need hotels and cars, and you want to book all that, you put in a few parameters, and Kayak gives you a bunch of options, and you can sort it a bunch of different ways. So it's not impossible to take really complex data and personal preferences and start to sort it and make sense of it and make it accessible and understandable for people and let them do something with it. So there's the complexity problem, and I've sort of indicated what I think some technology, kind of the direction we could take there. But there's a deeper cultural problem, which is, even if I can make sense of the system and I decide to participate, is it going to matter? And it's not apathy. I think we often think, oh, all these people don't care and they can't be bothered. It's, I think, actually a crisis of faith. That if I participate, is it gonna matter? And our hope there, and we think the promise there, is in that long tail of local offices and local elections. If you're voting in California for president, your vote probably doesn't have an impact, unfortunately. But we just did a local election test in Manchester, New Hampshire, and in a city of 75,000 people, the mayor got reelected by a 100-vote margin. So, if a handful of people could have gone out and knocked on doors, organized their neighbors, collectively said, this is what we care about, and we're going to go vote because of this, and actually determine the outcome of that election. So I think making those things really transparent, bringing data to bear on it, building personalized social tools, and helping connect that to the political process in a very direct way is how we scale up participation and make it more representative, because that's really what it's about. How do we make it more representative and therefore more responsive to the needs of everyone?